the mouthpiece of the Big 12 just took to Twitter to call out Greg Sankey and the SEC for bullying. Will that work? This is the Locked On Big 12, Locked On Texas Tech crossover.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12, Locked On Texas Tech crossover. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. That's Chris Level of Locked On Texas Tech. And let's start with the mouthpiece of the Big 12, who is a Red Raider, Cody Campbell, going to social media, calling out Greg Sankey and saying that enough is enough. The SEC can no longer have the stronghold they have over college football. Then, are the Red Raiders the real deal under Joey McGuire this year? I picked them to win the Big 12 championship this season, go to Arlington, but is that just fool's black gold after their 2-0 start against two opponents who really aren't good at football? Finally, Utah and Texas Tech. 10 a.m. start time. If there's any reason the Utah fans should want to leave the Big 12, add this to it. Let's throw that one in there and see if the Big 10's actually calling. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. Level, this was the biggest news I saw on my timeline in the last 48 hours. A pretty stern email that Greg Sankey sent to all the conference commissioners. It was immediately exposed on social media, and in it, he tries to strong-arm everyone by saying, if we're going to communicate, let's do it in person. Stop talking behind my back. I mean, he in essence, tells the rest of the conferences that the SEC is in charge and will call the shots here. This is going to be something that we all play on their terms. Cody Campbell was pretty intense in his response.
Yeah, I think Cody would tell you that was a thinly veiled threat. And Cody's just trying to get everybody to be on the same page and let's talk about this. Now, being on the same page is one thing, but trying to get things done is another. Okay. But let's understand that our current system isn't built for the long term. Everybody knows there's some sort of change looming, whether that's, Congress being involved, whether that's the conferences splitting apart again, and we go, superpower and all the things. Because I think that's what Cody is fighting for is, yes, he's fighting for Texas Tech. Yes, he's fighting for the Big 12, but he's basically fighting for everybody that's not in the SEC or the Big 10, because his biggest fear is that they separate and then everybody suffers. The fan, all these other schools and athletes and all the things. And I think that's where he's coming from. And this is somebody that's got a direct, very close relationship with Donald Trump. I think that, do you remember back in the summertime when there was conversations about Cody and Nick Saban and various people being on this committee, this college sports commission and committee? Correct. Okay, by Donald Trump. Then as some time went by, that it was clear, like Saban's like, I don't know if we need this. I'm not going to do it. And then Cody is now kind of the sole head of the committee and all these things. There's some other parts involved too. But my point in bringing this up is there was a golf round at one of Donald Trump's private courses that took place on a Sunday back in the summer, and it involved Greg Sankey. I believe it involved the athletic director at Notre Dame and all that. This is Cody's urging. This is trying to get all these people to understand, to listen to the president and all the things. So whether you're in politics and political guy or not, it doesn't matter. But he spent his own money with these commercials and he's trying to fight for the little guy and really fight for the fan as much as anything here.
Is this so he effectively claps into what Greg Sankey is saying in the subtext? There are congressmen involved with this. You mentioned the president, who is involved indirectly with what Cody said on Twitter, but he mentions all he can say is wow in response to Greg Sankey, and that their voices are not being heard of those in college sports, especially commissioners, the G6 commissioners, women's sports, Olympic sports, smaller schools, all being put down by Sankey and the SEC and his bullying tactics. This is something that I feel like Brett Yormark cannot say, right? Are we looking at Cody Campbell as the mouthpiece of the Big 12, if not the mouthpiece of the future of success in college football?
It doesn't mean that everybody will listen to you, but there are certain things that you can say when you have 2 commas in your bank account versus 3.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, Cody is on various committees and very close with Brett Yormark. Okay, so Cody understands what's going on at the highest levels here. I've often said when you've asked me about him, because Cody's been a friend of mine since 2003 or 4 when he played here. We never really lost touch with each other, and I see his dad at tech practice all the time and all the things. But I've often said that is a benefit to not only Texas Tech but the Big 12, that Cody is very well aware of the landscape. And I think, but by him being so outspoken about the landscape here, ought to give you pause if you are not in the Big 10 and the SEC, because I think he sees trouble looming.
Yeah.
And I think they're trying to get it fixed. Now, whether the government can fix it, whether he can fix it, but this is somebody that's very passionate about this, and he's spending his own dollars. I mean, he's definitely spending his own money and trying to rally support to try to get some resolution and get more guardrails here, not just house settlement type stuff.
Yeah. I want to focus in a little bit more heavily on Texas Tech themselves on the football field this year, but needed to begin this thing with Cody Campbell just going kind of scorched earth on social media saying, look, there are things Brett Yormark cannot say, because you have to, it's PR. You've got to hold yourself to a different standard than what Cody Campbell can do. And his focus is the same as Brett Yormark, very likely, in saving the Big 12 Olympic sports and college football. But Yormark is stuck being a mouthpiece of an entire conference. Cody Campbell can speak for the conference freely and is doing so here by calling out Greg Sankey, and I'm sure representing the little man in Washington, D.C. Coming up, Texas Tech. Fool's gold or the real deal? I think BYU's in there, Iowa State, or we saw TCU look really good in Utah. Is elite. Can Texas Tech dethrone any of those? This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Texas Tech crossover. Hey. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Look, 5 Hour Energy is exactly where I go. As somebody who works for the Savannah Bananas, as well as hosts the Locked On Big 12 podcast, I'm on the run all the time. And it's time to fuel up with 5 Hour Energy transfusions. Grape, ginger, lime, your favorite drink. Non-alcoholic boost. Great memories with friends. A hole-in-one for the energy of your game. Whether you're out on the course or need a little extra push to power through your day watching college football, the best thing you can do is utilize the transfusion 5 Hour Energies. I have personally, during college football season, I've had 2 of these each of the Saturdays now, because they are long Saturdays in the Big 12. And, watching college football, golfing, all of that stuff, it's good and fun with good people and good flavors. Grape, ginger, lime flavor. 5 Hour Energy transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse. Now you can amp up the fun. Tee up with 5HEWin.com for full rules and entry right now, as you can amp up the fun, buy, snap, enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip or 2 with any golf tournament in the USA. No purchase necessary, excludes the Masters tournament, ends October 31st of 2025. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. I went to FanDuel this weekend and made a whole lot of money. The way that I did it was by betting on the teams in the Big 12 that I thought would cover the spread. BYU was one of those. NFL season is here. College football is here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because immediately I get paid. From the app, I just download the app, boop, doop, bet on something. If it hits, I get paid. Makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So if you're ready to join and to play, download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet and get that $300 in bonus bets when it hits with FanDuel. Chris Level of Locked On Texas Tech. Are the Red Raiders the real deal? Well, here's what I'm going to ask you that question and then just not let you answer it yet. I said on the Matt Mosley show recently, what I've learned about Texas Tech is they don't suck. I have not learned how they will play against Utah. I've not learned how they would play against anybody in the Big 12, but I've learned their floor isn't 2-10. The floor isn't 4-8. The floor is not just a bowl team, but I think a contender. At the same time, it's hard to tell the ceiling when they really have played no one, but they are still my Big 12 champions, and I think they have the inklings against bad opponents of what could be a Big 12 championship team.
I would agree with you that they won't suck. I do agree with you also that we're not real sure what you're dealing with here, and you're headed for a collision course with the Utes on September the 20th that I think points one team in a pretty good spot, and the other team loses a lot of margin for error going forward. This is going to be both teams' first conference game. They'll have their full conference schedule ahead of them after that, but whoever loses in Salt Lake City that day may only be able to lose one more game. You may have to finish 7-1 to have a realistic shot to get to Arlington. That's just where we're at. As it stands right now, based on what we've seen, and we haven't seen the same things from all these teams. It's based on context and who they've played, where they've played them and all that. But what I know right now, I think it's fair to say that Iowa State's the best team. But that's just because they have a more impressive resume to this point. But we are just getting started. This is a long, long season. Injuries are going to come into play. Upsets are going to come into play. And you know, we'll start to see some separation, but we are very early here in mid-September. But I would say right now it's Iowa State, and I'm not the contrary, Drake. I'm not ready to like bury Kansas State and bury West Virginia, you know, as much. Now, if we see 3 or 4 more weeks of it, then maybe so. But I think everybody crowning TCU after beating a terrible North Carolina team is a bit much to me. Just like you can't, it's hard for me to sit here and talk up Texas Tech. They've done exactly what they were supposed to do. They've beat 2 really bad teams at home, which is what you're supposed to do when you're good, but you haven't proven anything yet.
They have, again, I want to kind of go back to, they have proven they don't suck. That's the only, you know, you can't, you haven't told me you can beat Utah.
Right.
You haven't told me that game at Houston is going to be a cakewalk. That the Houston Cougars, in my opinion, are one of the best teams in the most improved teams in the Big 12, I should say, that could vie for maybe not a Big 12 championship, but for knocking off a couple of contenders, as they did last year, and making things interesting come November. Texas Tech, though, the offensive line, I mean, the offensive line looked good, the defensive line looked good, but who are they playing? Will that be answered this week? Will we learn anything new against Oregon State, or is it another just, hey, Texas Tech beat a team that's now 0-3, and it's a home game, and we still don't know going into Utah because they're not battle test?
Well, when their head coach, Trent Bray, was going to halftime last week on TV, on the CW, mind you, he dropped an F-bomb about his own team's ability to execute simple special teams things. So that gives you an idea of how it's going with Oregon State. And I think you would have looked at it and you would have thought months ago that Oregon State was going to be 2-0 when you were playing them. Instead, they're 0-2. And so much of it has just been goofy. Special teams, the deep snapper was out, and all these things. They've got athletes, but I don't. You know, and Utah went and hammered UCLA. I think UCLA is very bad as well. But because they're in a Power 4 league, and because UCLA did this in Los Angeles, you get a lot of credit for it. So I do think Oregon State's a step up. I think this has been a small incline of competition, whereas when you play Utah, it will be much bigger. But should we be sold on Utah yet, that they're back as well and they're ranked and everybody's feeling good about everything? I'm not necessarily sure that we know everything about Utah yet either, but I know we'll find out what weight class everybody's going to be in on that day. And I think that is, as we look at that matchup, that's one of the best offensive lines on paper, according to the NFL folks in the sport and in the Big 12. But I also think that Texas Tech will bring in a heavyweight defensive line. And I think that you'll see so many scouts focused on that matchup. And that's wildly fascinating to me. But do we know if Utah's defense, after they lost so much in the portal, is legit? Question mark. Do they have enough receivers? What happens if Utah gets behind? Do they have enough firepower to catch up? These are all, I think, very good questions as it relates to the Utes. But Texas Tech has plenty of questions as well. But hopefully we'll start to get some answers here fairly soon. But I don't know if you're going to get many true answers after the Oregon State game, unless it's bad news. Like if you beat them 50-0, I still would say, how much do you really, really know? And if it's 24-21, you may go, okay, maybe not so good. I don't know what to tell you.
I do think that we've learned we've learned that Utah can beat a Power 4 opponent out of the Big Ten.
Yes.
But we also learned they beat the FCS equivalent of what the Big Ten has, right? There's just there's not a way, in the same way that TCU beat North Carolina, to look at this game and say you went on the road and beat a mid-tier, upper-tier SEC team, or you went on the road and beat a college football playoff contender. Utah went on the road and beat what we know to be a bad UCLA team. Now, that does not mean Utah is bad, or they should be docked for that, or that Utah cannot be elite this year. They should still be given all of their flowers because, as we know, we've watched schools like Arizona State, who's a contender in the Big 12, walk into an atmosphere against a 2-10 team and lose in a game that they were projected to win, lose in a game they probably should have won. So Utah took care of business and can't be slighted. Do you think Texas Tech is at a disadvantage? Because, and again, I want to reemphasize, Utah hasn't played anyone. They haven't. But is Texas Tech at a disadvantage? Because, again, they really, really haven't played anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think whatever result you get on the 20th, you can probably point to whatever opinion you had on this day and say, see, I was right. Because I think if your glass is half full, let's just play it this way. You say you have all these new parts, you have new coordinators, you have new schemes, you need timing, you need chemistry. Would it have been great for you to get dropped in the deep end of the pool right out of the gate, and when you're not fully ready yet, or was this best that you're kind of easing into this and the competition steadily increases? I don't know. If you lose this game in Salt Lake City, everybody's probably going to go, see, you should have tested yourself. You had problems. You didn't know you had problems. You could have addressed them. I mean, we could probably play that game, but I've really looked at. I think people have glossed over that you have two new coordinators here. Mm-hmm. There are two new schemes, and I think that there's just no quick way to do it. And So I've taken that from a positive standpoint and think that this is giving them time to, gel, if you will. And I guess we'll find out what you needed. But heck, man, it's not like you get to pick your schedule. This thing was set 4 or 5 years ago, when Oregon State was a legit Pac-12 member. Now there's no Pac-12, and now they're a semi-Pac-12 member in a very weird Pac-12.
Yeah, no doubt. This is all leading up to that Utah game that is scheduled for 10 a.m. local time. Travesty. Yes. This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Texas Tech Cross. Let's get into how bad that is. Oh, today's brought to you by Game Time. Why? Because Game Time is where I go to get cheap college football tickets. That's the beauty of Game Time. With college football being back, I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting the tickets can be a huge battle unless you're using Game Time. Pull up the app, couple of taps, as low as $25 to see Power 4 football. The app makes it super simple. Even last-second deals and zone deals. Faster, cheaper, less stressful than any other app that I've used. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time and do it today. Chris Level of Locked On Texas Tech. Let's play it at 10 a.m. local time. Look, if I'm a Utah fan and I see that we are going to play one of the biggest early games in the Big 12, at 10 a.m. local time. This is, I mean, a night game would be fun if you put it at it would be 1:30 in the afternoon for them or 2:30 in the afternoon for them. That in itself, fine, cool. But sometimes things happen where it's like I resonate with the Utah fans that want to leave the Big 12. they feel slighted for some reason. This is one of those reasons. How do you build pomp and circumstance around the words 10 a.m.?
So when I saw this, I felt like I'd won the road game lottery a little bit. I loved it. I mean, I'll be on this trip as part of the Texas Tech radio broadcast, and I thought, man, I'll be home early. When you're the road team, you always want to just get up and go. Let's just go do this thing and everything. I do think this is going to be a big noon kickoff. I do think this is a good showcase for the league. It obviously is less than ideal for the Utah folks that it is so much earlier, but this is just the way that it works. And if they had another option, I'm sure that they would take it on conference affiliation, but everybody, there was basketball games played at 9:00 local time last year. There's some Friday night games that everybody's dealing with. This is just part of the deal. If you want that check, man, you're gonna have to deal with some of this stuff. But I empathize with them, but then again, I kind of don't. But I would say though that I'm thrilled for the league that they could have been in a lot of places, but you're going to get kind of showcased for a 6-hour window between the kickoff show and then straight into what we think will be a really, really good game. And it's unfortunate that it's a 10 a.m. local kick, but that's the reality of it. But this guy right here, I'm excited about it. I think I would give it 3 thumbs up if I had a third thumb.
Short answer here. What's the toughest night environment you've seen as a radio analyst?
BYU was stout. Kansas State stout. West Virginia's can be stout when they've got time to get sauced up.
So
but yes.
Let's take those into account. You are Baron Morton or anybody who's ever played college football at the Power 4 level.
Right.
And you are sitting around all day. You woke up at you could wake up at 11 if you wanted to and still be at the ballpark, but the game by 4 o'clock for when the buses pull up, or some of these BYU games at even, 5 o'clock local time when you're getting to the stadium. Then you walk in and it's deathly loud and you've spent all day thinking. This is going to be up at 5:30 at the stadium at 6 o'clock. Get ready to go. How big of an advantage? Because you've been in these atmospheres. You've seen these morning games or late games. How big of an advantage did this give Texas Tech?
It's just impossible to replicate the atmosphere in an early day game anywhere. I mean, compared to nighttime. And like, I'm sure, both, I know Texas Tech does. Texas Tech has several practices even during the season that are 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m., things like that. And then they'll practice at 9 or 10 a.m., and on a couple of days throughout the week. And so all these players are used to getting up early, but it's the atmosphere and you just can't. And maybe the pregame show and some of that pomp and circumstance, maybe it's a one-off. And the stadium is full, and Coach Whittingham, will please shout out from the top of that mountain, hey, man, we need you on this day. And maybe it'll be different, but typically speaking, it just doesn't have the same juice. It doesn't matter where you are, what program you are, coaching for or whatever. It just doesn't typically have the same juice. So I do think it's an advantage. It may mean a little bit. It may mean a lot. I'm just not sure, because sometimes it takes the home team a little bit to get going. You come out flat. I don't know. I can't explain it, but I've seen it on both ends of this deal for years.
Is there a way Texas Tech you're looking at earlier, the ESPN has 68% chance that Utah wins this game. Is there a way Texas Tech walks into Rice-Eccles Stadium and pulls it off? And is that helped again by this, possibly by this time?
Oh, I think you could walk into Rice-Eccles Stadium and thump Utah. Absolutely. Like,
Stop it. Watch out now, thump.
Yeah, I'm just not. I guess I'm supposed to bow down to Utah and everything for all that they've done, but I mean, I know they'll be well coached. I know that this is supposedly some really good home environment, and I expect a very good game. But I also think Utah is getting a lot of credit already, and I'm not sure we've talked about this. Has anybody really done anything? And again, you gotta label somebody as getting credit here, but if we're basing it all on a UCLA, I will say this: UCLA will be the best team that either one of these teams has played before they play. That's a fair statement. But if we're judging,
but it's not a very big statement, Chris.
Exactly, and we're going to say based off of that 70% chance or whatever it was that gives Utah the chance to win this. I mean, I don't know how some of these metrics are put together, but again, we'll all find out on the 20th, I guess. But I just I can't necessarily, because I think the same questions for you're asking me about the Red Raiders should be being asked to the Utes, and we just don't know. We can sit here and talk about all these names and the quarterback that you added and this and that, but I just don't ultimately think we don't know, because neither team has been hit in the mouth yet. Neither team. What does each team do when that happens? I think right now it's a shoulder shrug. Like I'm not real sure.
Yeah, at the very least. So have you seen a game in Salt Lake yet?
No, I mean, Texas Tech played basketball there, and our basketball team stayed half a mile away from the Bryce Eccles and all that. Now, I did stay in Salt Lake and then played at Utah, but no, I've not. I will tell you, Drake, that after seeing some of these stadiums up close, I was expecting more infrastructure.
Oh my gosh, terrible infrastructure.
Yes, and I would say the settings for both of these stadiums in Utah are unbelievably, I mean, just incredible. But like, I'm talking about premium seating and press box and like brick and mortar around the stadium, that to where it's like, man, and it's just I don't know. I was left kind of going, okay. I mean,
yeah, not to make it a stadium pissing match here.
No, yeah, and I'm not trying to do that. So BYU, yes, I didn't. BYU has one of the more frustrating press box setups because the windows don't lift, so you can't get the full effect. Right. So I'll give you that. Rice Eccles, I've been for an afternoon game. I've been for a night game, and two very different things. Those are two very different opponents, by the way. But I went for the Holy War last year. It's deadly. Like seeing BYU kind of reminds me of a louder, which is weird because Gary Patterson will tell you that Oklahoma is the loudest stadium that he's played in. But I mean, my first trip to Gaylord Family, I was unimpressed. Again, infrastructure-wise, it's like this place is just a brick nothing. It's just a bunch of concrete and needs a revamp. And then that there's obviously LaVell Edwards just gets as loud as possible. There is something about Rice Eccles. There's something about it at night that's different that cannot be replicated. And I think that Texas Tech ultimately does have the advantage here in a game where two teams are squaring up. It will feel more like a neutral site game than it would at night, given Utah fans know how to pregame. They're great at the tailgate thing. Very hard to tailgate when you're starting at 6 a.m. That's not a knock on Utah fans. It's a knock on Fox and you having to play at 10 a.m. local time. Chris Level, where can more folks find your work before that big matchup that's now 2 weeks away? Well, yeah, locked on Texas Tech, Casey Cowan and I, Monday through Friday, and obviously our man Drake. Sometimes we join on a Thursday afternoon with the squad show activity. Everybody's schedules are crazy. Both of our schedules are crazy, so we try to do the best we can this time of year. But yeah, appreciate you chopping it up with me. And I'm embarrassed to tell the Ute fans that I kept, for whatever stupid reason, I was putting a B on the front of Rice Eccles. I was like wanting to call it Bryce Eccles. So yeah, oops, because I drove by it six times at least when we were up there for basketball. So and seriously, beautiful campus. So glad that everybody's that they're a part of this league. I don't know if they're happy with it or not, but I don't feel sorry for you for an early kick. Sorry. Heck
yeah. Check your boxes there, Chris. Way to appease the opposing fan base before they throw things at you on the sideline.
Yeah, I got you.
Cheerleader last season. This has been, and always will be, Locked On Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. It's a crossover with Texas Tech and Dose Grande.